I don't know if I've got a
Oh,
dark
I can record. I
background.
started recording. Haha. Done then.
I think he's on the Fresno camera.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can get it to show on a black background. Does that show up better on that one?
Yeah, this is better. Oh, look at that. The GANs that started to form.
Yeah, and this is the Orma stuff. And when you turn it, it stays in orientation to the Earth's poles. It doesn't. You can turn the jar in a big arc, and the GAN stays in its polar orientation. It's gonna be interesting to figure out some way of photographing that.
It's really good. Yeah, it's fluffy clouds there.
Yeah. Anyway. That was the newest.
Might be interesting to see if there was a vertical component too. I'm not sure what would cause a vertical interaction with that.
Okay, I will see what I can figure out. As I said, that was just this morning. You guys are the first people to get in on this one, this observation. It's been there, it's just I hadn't realized what it was doing. I spun the glass in front of me, and it didn't, of course it didn't move, and I didn't think that it was that big of a thing, and I swirled it like you would, ice cubes in a glass of brandy. But to be standing up and moving in a larger arc, and it still stays with its polar orientation, is rather interesting. It might have some applications, possibly in front of other plasma fields. Is what I think I'm going to take a look at next to see if it'll interact with the big magrav at work.
You know what might cause it a vertical reaction is to have a crystal above it.
Yeah, I don't have anything here. Those are all my crystals are at work. But this stuff, it basically has active life of this free rotation of about an hour and a half, and then it collects at the bottom, and it doesn't do as well when you shake it back up the second time. Basically, it's the gravitational and magnetic forces are glumming together. There isn't the separation into the distinct fields of gravitational, heavier material, and the light magnetic stuff. This stuff up on top will spin in the jar in rotation with your orientation to the planet, whereas the stuff on the bottom stays put. So the stuff on the bottom is very much influenced by gravity, and the stuff up in the middle is more magnetic, but it's not magnetic, it's Earth polar magnetic. Fun stuff. Russell, your mic's off.
She's talking to someone.
Okay. So I'm trying to run around. Crystal.
Oh, I'm so sorry. You know what? The recording, I was muted. Okay, I'm saying this is the 20th FESIG meeting, and many apologies. I joined the meeting late because I was away, and I'm still away. But I managed to get back to my hotel room. I managed to get on the internet connection. So we would like to have a little few minutes recording, at least to show that we really actually did have the meeting. And thanks to Fres, Ron, Tricia, this meeting had happened right from the start at 5 p.m. as scheduled, and they had continued with the meeting for so long, and I just joined in. And Fres, you would like to show some stuff that you showed earlier?
We did a real quick,
just for these few minutes, just to revise, or rather recap on what had been discussed throughout the whole meeting that you had been conducting for 2 hours or so.
yeah, we did a real quick talk on different circuitry when it comes to increasing the amperage and voltage of the different batteries, going from the solar type batteries and what the problems were with the solar cells, and then to the plasma batteries, and how we haven't gotten a lot of amperage out of them yet. We talked about crystal batteries, which is the ones that form inside, you put your piezoelectric crystals inside a cap of copper, and the pressure on the inside and the outside cathode sets up a constant electrical flow. And we discussed the pros and cons of the crystal battery in conjunction with the plasma battery. And the thoughts were, we're trying to get a system that is totally a nano system or a plasma system, rather than to get into the matter state of the copper and the piezoelectric crystals. It's a possibility, it's a way of looking at it. We then went on to some of the different drawings of how do we talk about capacitors and how they work. I'm going to do a quick screen share, and that was, we've seen different ways of looking at the capacitors. This new cap design, which looks like a U in the C4 configuration, basically is an arrow which shows the plasma flow, and your drawings can then represent your easily by it. I'm going to do a quick pen draw that your controls over. Your plasma flows as such and returns, and get it to draw this direction, forming your infinity loops, like so. We then went on and talked about the battery area, and it isn't just a single battery, it's probably a multiple battery, both in parallel and in series, to get the amperage up. There is a switch that you can use to shut the circuit off. This gets your main plasma flow going and such. You have at the top your plug strip, and that has a fan and an LED. Your batteries over here supply the basic need to the LED and the fan in the upper left. We'll clear again. In this drawing, we have added 2 more capacitors to it, so that as the current comes around, the plasma comes around, it builds up and then is braided enough to power the LEDs and the fan at that location. The next thing we talked about was the antenna system, which is part of the wireless system. And it's basically your antenna is your power supply. The bottom we normally consider as negative, but as John has talked about, it's actually for plasma stuff, this is your plus in plasma. This is where your energy is coming out of. So it wants to go to ground, which is in that location. Your earth currents come out of the atmosphere through your antenna to ground in that location. The coil that's right there picks up the current, brings it around, and throws it into it. This is when we can add more load demand in the left-hand side. This means that as more plasma is demanded by the circuit on this side, change color, more energy has to come in to the antenna on this side, being harvested by the pickup coil around the wire that's carrying the charge. So the more use that's over here, the more is supplied from here. It's kind of an on-demand system. And the share.
Right.
We then went on to discuss the relationship of the planet and the way that it's evolving, and especially the last few months, into a higher frequency. We talked about the changes, the world changes in the globe as to supporting life. And the creatures that were on the planet 10,000 years ago, the large dinosaurs and stuff, we brought them in today into current Earth conditions, their leg bones would crush. This is part of the reason I feel that the whales returned from being terrestrial animals to aquatic mammals, because their size was so great they couldn't support themselves on land. They might have been one of the last of the large land creatures on Earth. They actually basically survived by going into a weightless condition supported by water. Hippopotamuses, some of the larger land creatures that spend time in water also could have been the same thing. We also talked about, at that time, there was humanoids that were on the planet that could have been at least 30 feet tall, at least 10, 30. Some suggestion may have been as much as 100 feet, making the building of the pyramids a lot more easier. If you were that tall, you could actually pick the blocks up and set them into place. The conversation then went forward into GANs production, and we did a demonstration of what to do with your leftover GANs water, what you've been rinsing your GANs with it, and you end up with a wash solution that you save, and most of us save all our wash. It's usually higher in salt and higher in acid or higher in alkali than what we harvest for our plants and stuff after we've got our GANs washed. But I took a sample that I had in a large beaker and added NaOH caustic spray to it and allowed it to settle out. The fluffy GANs that forms has a magnetic component to it, in that it isn't to a magnet, mechanical magnet that we get, a refrigerator magnet. It has no effect on it. But it has an effect that it orientates it to the polar magneticity of the planet. As the GANs drops out, the GANs at the bottom is more gravitational at the bottom. If we remove that, the GANs that's above it, the magnetic stays in solution longer. Once all the GAN settles out to the bottom, even reshaking it, it doesn't have as much of that propensity to stay oriented to the Earth's polar north. So, to Micronesia and the falls, and that's a quick recap of what we covered.
Oh, thank you so much, Fred. That was a good recap, a summary of the meeting that you have been holding up thus far for 2.5 hours. Oh, many apologies about me being so late and joining you towards the end, but here we are, and we have this short recording of the summary of the 20th FESIG meeting. today on the 5th of October. And here we have in attendance Tricia, Ron, Press, and me. And Peter Pigner was in attendance earlier as well. And he
Actually, we started about 4 hours ago.
4 hours ago. Oh, wow, that's amazing. My goodness. I won't hold you up any longer. This is so amazing. Okay, so anyway, before we end this, I would like this recording, I would like to ask, you were saying, Ron, you mentioned John, and Press also mentioned John, and John had an interview with Carrie Cassidy, and he's come up with this device that seems to be working well. So would you think John would want to join us to help Mike with the fuelless device for the car?
He might. I'm not sure.
What do you think, Fred? Or do you want to leave that as a private discussion another time, and then we will take it from there until the next meeting?
We can put the invite out. I'm not directly in contact with him.
Mm-hmm. All right then. Is there anything that you want to say before we close the meeting and have it adjourned to the next meeting, the 21st FESIG meeting?
The other point that we brought up, and it has to do with the GANs. If you have a new GANs, don't just put it on the shelf and think it's pretty, and do the proper wash on it, because you may have more properties in your GANs than what you think. You may have a mixture of GANs, and there may be some things that it can do in the line of either alkali or acid salt or not. Take a look at it and see what it does. Is it metallic? Is it organic? Is it inorganic? Do the washes, save your washes, test it, see what it does. But don't just make your GANs and throw it on the shelf straight out of the reactor.
You know, that brings something up that I didn't mention before, but I tried some with vegetables, and what I did was I didn't actually use any, diatomaceous earth or any NaOH or anything like that. All I used was just pure, clean water, distilled water. And one reaction that I got from 3 of the containers that I had sealed. Now, these are sealed containers. After I poured the water in on the vegetables, I sealed them, and I put a clear crystal on each one of them. And 3 of them blew the crystal off the top and dented the lid, and they're still sealed tight. But three of the, I think there's 8 total. 3 of the 8 that had a clear crystal on the top blew like a conical dent in the top, and blew the crystal clear off onto the shelf they're sitting on in the window.
Wow.
There's a saying. Botulism will kill you quick.
Yes.
Well,
You've got a fermentation process going on inside, so you realize that when you set up your food ganses and stuff, your first takeoff on it is probably food for something. It may be a bacteria, maybe a virus, it may be something like that.
Mm-hmm.
The ganses of food are usually, we digest them in the process, and we either use an strong alkali, or a strong acid. And the benefit of that is that it actually kills the viruses and the bacteria. You can have fermentation. A mold or a yeast can get in there, and it's perfect food for them. Realize that your basic GANs is the building blocks of everything living. So a lot of stuff is going to be wanting to get its little tentacles on it, and let's not make it botulism and just something that'll cause your problems later on. But yeah, it'll produce a lot of CO2 gas, and dome or hydrogen sulfide gas, and dome your lid. So.
Right.
No, it was just an experiment. I didn't know how it would turn out, but I just thought I'd try it.
Oh, isn't that wonderful?
No problem. I just remember botulism will kill you quick.
Yeah, we will have to adjourn this meeting now because I feel really bad that you guys have been staring at the computer for 4.5 hours or so. Oh gosh. Okay, so there being no other business, we continue with this in the next meeting. There being no other business, we will continue. We will adjourn this 20th FESIG meeting to the 21st FESIG meeting on the 19th of October, Wednesday. 2016. Shall we? And thank you.
Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you very much, brothers and sisters. Thank you. I'll speak to you soon, Trish. I'll call you in a minute after we close this meeting, and I'm going to stop.